you to turn to Matthew chapter 6. My wife sends her greetings and blessings to you. She's praying for the meetings. She sends her gratitude to you for putting up with me for a week, so she didn't have to. And she actually sent me to this revival, hoping God would do something in my life. And I think He is, so I think He is. I'm trusting so. I'm a little not discouraged at all. That isn't the word. Not struggling. That isn't the word. I'm just a little, there's so much material, and we've only got tonight and tomorrow night. So we're going to have to skip over some stuff. So we're actually moving to verse 33. And if you wonder, of course, what we've been doing, I know I'm a little strange in more than one way, but I'm really into this saturation thing, and that came out of my teenage days. I discovered that every time I'm aware of Jesus in my life, I have victory. And when I'm not aware of Him, I'm defeated. It's just duh. So be aware of Him all the time, which means there's going to have to be a continual walk and an awareness. So as a teenager, I committed to Jesus to develop a God awareness in my life. Just to pull Him into the middle of everything. Don't do anything without Him. It wasn't natural because I'd lived out of myself for so long, but to develop a God awareness until that became natural. So everything that began to happen to me, I began to drag Jesus in the middle of it. Oh, Lord, I got a hard test. Help me think. Lord, I broke my pencil. Lord, my shoestring's untied. Lord, help me make this basket. Lord, that's a good-looking girl on the street corner. I just drug Him into everything, just everything. Just got Him in the middle of everything. Well, if you do that, you begin to develop, and you do that for 40 years, and He'll become real to you. And one of the parts of that process of becoming aware of Him all the time was, I was doing all the talking. I wanted Him to talk back. So I got into this. I began to, now reading the Bible through is good. Hey, reading the Bible through in a year, nobody's against that. So nobody's criticizing that. But you know, you can get in a motorboat on a lake, and you can go streaming across the lake, 25 mile an hour, water blows, splashes in your face, good scenery, wow, and you have a good time. But you can get on scuba gear, and you get a whole different view. So there is what would happen if you take a passage, a paragraph, and just go after it? What would happen if you take the gospel or the epistle of 1 John? You can read it in 20 minutes, the whole thing, 5 chapters, and just every day. What would happen if you would read 1 John, 5 chapters, every single day for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, for 4 weeks? Go for 2 months. Just go after it. Just write the first paragraph down and carry it with you in the daytime and say, what does this mean, Lord? And just pray over it and just live in it. He would begin to talk to you. That's all I'm doing. And we've been doing that process, and you think we ought to move on, and probably you're right. But we're looking at Matthew chapter 6, verse 25, through the end of the chapter. And we're skipping again over some material. One part of the material we're skipping over is verse 30, where he brings up faith. It's the first time in the scriptures, that is in the Gospels, that he brings up the word faith. It's the first time it shows up. And it's a negative. Oh, you of little faith. What does that mean? And so we're skipping over that whole thing. But we want to go to verse 33. So if it's okay, we'll begin at chapter 6, verse 25, and read to get the context until we move into verse 33. He says, therefore I say to you, do not worry about your life, what you'll eat, what you'll drink, nor about your body, what you'll put on. Is life not more than food, and the body more than clothing? Look at the birds of the air, for they neither sow nor reap nor gather into barns, yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they. Which of you by worry can add 1 cubit to his stature? So why do you worry about clothing? Consider the lilies of the field, how they grow, they neither toil nor spin. And yet I say to you that even Solomon in all of his glory was not arrayed like one of these. Now if God so clothed the grass of the field, which today is and tomorrow is thrown into the oven, will he not much more clothe you, O you of little faith? Therefore do not worry, saying, what shall we eat, or what shall we drink, or what shall we wear? For after all these things the Gentiles seek. For your heavenly Father knows you need all these things. But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. Wow. Chapter 6, verse 33 is a hallmark verse. It's a bumper sticker thing. It's the whole Sermon on the Mount just jammed into one overwhelming statement. It's probably right up there with John 3:16 in memorization, because it's just such a powerful verse. It's just overwhelming what he does in this simple little verse. He takes the whole premise of the Sermon on the Mount and just wraps it together and hands it to you in a package. Seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness. All these things will be added unto you. It's the climax, basically, of everything he is going to say in the sermon, because now he's going to move into the conclusion, which will be chapter 7. So this is an overwhelming, and again, it's the premise. And you remember the premise, you are absolutely helpless. Chapter 5, verse 3, Beatitudes, first one. And you'll remember from last night that he brought up the subject of the kingdom in the first beatitude. So connected with the helplessness of your life is this overwhelming idea, for theirs is the kingdom. And then he brought up in the 8th beatitude the persecution and added to it, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And these become the bookends of the premise. In other words, everything that's going on in the Sermon on the Mount is shaped by this dynamic idea of the kingdom. And you'll remember that the kingdom is not a territorial deal. It's not there's a territory, a state, a ground material, and there's a king who reigns over that state or that territory. That's not what's going on. You don't go into the kingdom. I move in there, he's my king. I move out, he's not my king. That's not this concept. This concept is a relational concept. That my helplessness, who I am. See, I don't go into the territory of the kingdom. I am the territory of the kingdom. And he literally comes, my helplessness, if I will embrace that, will open the door for the amazingness of his nature, his resource, who he is, the king himself, to literally merge with me. Not boss me around, not counsel me, not give me advice, not aid me in bad times, not when I have a problem, get me over the hump, but literally his life and my life coming together. And in this coming together merger thing, I become this new creature. I can't be this on my own. He can't be this on his own. At least he's decided not to be. So when he and I come together, this new thing is created. Do you realize how strong this is in the scriptures? Jesus talked to Nicodemus about the new birth. That was a Jewish concept. See, they believed that if you were a proselyte, if you were a non-Jew, and you wanted to embrace Judaism as your faith, they would dig a big pit. They would take a bull and put him over that pit. They would slit his throat. You would walk in one end of the pit and let the blood just soak you and come out the other end. And they believed that when you came out the other end, covered with the blood, you were a new creature. So much so that all the debts you owed when you went in, you no longer owe because you're not that person anymore. This is better than declaring bankruptcy. Jesus talks about that and says, that's what I'm talking about, guys. I'm not talking about making New Year's resolutions. I'm not talking about reforming. I'm not talking, okay, I'll quit that and start this. Okay, I'll go to church, bug off. See, we're not talking about that. What we're talking about is an invasion of your life with the person of Jesus in what he calls the more category in our passage. That there's something more than the physical. There's something more than food. There's something more going on. What is this more thing? I double up my fist and I sock you in the mouth. That's a physical thing. You're right. Your teeth fall out. Your nose is bloody. That's awfully physical. You're right. But folks, it's more than physical because there was something going on in me in the more category that displayed itself in the physical. There was an anger. Well, take that out and put it on a table and let's look at it. You can't. Well, measure it. How long is it? You can't. Well, how much does it weigh? You can't. Well, is it a quart or a gallon? You can't. Why? Because it's hidden. It's mystical. It's the unseen. You can't touch it. And yet it displays itself all through your life. What is that thing? What is this area? What is this spiritual reality of my life? In chapter 6, as he deals, we talked about last night, as he deals with religion, he calls it in the secret. He calls it the mystical, hidden realm of your life. And don't say it isn't real because you can't see it, because it displays itself continually and influences you, and you're always saying, well, I can't help the way I feel. What are you talking about? Well, in this unseen realm of your life, you're helpless. Well, I'm depressed. Well, why are you depressed? I don't know. It's in this realm of more. It's in this unseen. It's in the secret thing. In fact, he's so strong on this in this chapter 6, he says, you do charitable deeds. But let me tell you, your charitable deeds are your biggest sin. What? How can you say that? Because you're a hypocrite. If you aren't merged with him, if in the more he hasn't filled you, if you're not linked with him, if you don't live in the God awareness, if he's not infiltrating and sourcing your life, every charitable deed you do is a sin. Oh, come on, Manley. $10 is $10. No, it's not. Well, a non-Christian gives a guy $10. A Christian gives a guy $10. $10 is $10. No, it's not. Why? Because there's something in the more. A cup of cold water is a cup of cold water. No, it's not. When a cup of cold water is given in Jesus' name, it takes on a more quality that's beyond the physical. On our district, we had training on Saturday, once a year. All the churches came, laymen came. We had workshops for training. They decided to have a workshop on greeting, how to greet. And you know who they chose to train us in how to greet people at the door? The manager of Chick-fil-A. Because they know how to do it. They know how to shake your hand. They know how to grin. They know how to have the badge. They know how to, whoo. Folks, I'm not interested in that. I don't want a greeter who just knows how to. I want somebody who dwells in the more. I want somebody who has the intimacy of Christ in their life. I want somebody who's merged so that when they grab my hand, they zap me with Jesus. So I can't walk through the door without feeling his presence because it comes from them. Well, we need a teacher for the elementary class. Oh, I know who we ought to get. We've got this wonderful lady in our church, and she knows how to teach. She's got a degree in that area, and she teaches in the school. She knows how to put pictures on the wall. She knows how to describe, lay out lessons. She knows how to hit a kid and not bruise him. We got to have her. We want her to teach. I don't want her teaching. I'd rather have somebody who doesn't know how to teach, who's filled with Jesus, who's dumping Jesus all. See, there's something more going on here than just physical teaching. There's something more going on here than just charitable deeds. There's something more going on here, he says, than prayer. He says, you pray, you do vain repetitions, you say all the right words, people are impressed, but there isn't the more. It isn't in the secret thing. You aren't linked with him, and since you're not linked with him, your prayers become sinful. Do you get this? There's this more category. There's this overwhelming realm of your life that's beyond the physical, and he wants to invade that area. Well, isn't he going to touch the physical? Oh, yeah, because he's going to invade this area, and that's going to play itself out in the physical expression of your life. So he says, this is the premise. This is what we're talking about. This is the deal. So he comes to this passage and says, listen, do not worry about physical stuff. Yeah, pay your bills. We're not talking irresponsibility. But if you're gonna be concerned about something, let it be this spiritual reality of Jesus and you, of his life and your life, his nature and your nature, literally come together in this infusion, in this welding, in this oneness, in this intimacy, in this saturation, until your life is just permeated with him. Worry about that. Be concerned about that. Go after that. Now you'll notice he says in verse 25, do not worry. You'll notice in verse 28 he says, why do you worry? You'll notice in verse 31, do not worry. You'll notice in verse 34, do not worry. He says that 4 times. Frankly, I'm tired of people telling me do not. Somebody's always telling them, don't do that, don't do that, don't do that. Please, would you tell me what I can do? Here it is. Chapter 6, verse 33. But in contrast to what you can't do, what you should not do, what the negative is, in contrast to that, let me give you, what you can do. Seek. Seek. Now, seek is in the active voice. And you know what that is because you learned that in the 6th grade. The active voice means the subject is responsible for the action of the verb. Well, what's the subject? Well, it's an imperative verb, meaning it's a command. And there's an assumed subject, which is you. So he's literally saying, you, hey, I'm talking to you. You, hey, you, wake up, I'm talking to you. You, seek. You're responsible for the seeking. Now, there's a problem with it. Come on, you're an intelligent group. You can get this. Seeking is not what you think it is. See, when you come to me and say, seek, I immediately say, where's my flashlight? Where's my metal detector? I'll put on my backpack. I'll get my hiking shoes. I'll go after this thing. I'll find it. I'll go to a seminar. What book should I read? Should I go to Bible college? I'll figure this out. He's not talking about that. Why wouldn't he be talking about that? Because you're helpless. And if the finding of this thing is dependent upon you, you're in trouble. Because you're living in blindness, you're living in darkness, you can't see where you're going, you don't have the energy, you don't have the intelligence, you'll never figure this thing out. So the seeking he's talking about is not, I'll get my flashlight, I'll get my metal. He's not talking about that. Well, what is he talking about? Now, you may be able to come up with a word that's far beyond what I can come up with, and that would be great. You tell me, and I'll steal it from you. I promise you. If it's a better that explains this. The only word I can come up with, and I apologize to the Sunday school crowd that we had on Sunday morning, because we went over this concept, this prevenient grace concept on that Sunday morning. But hey, you've forgotten anyhow, so it doesn't matter. Anyhow, The only word I can come up with is respond. See, the truth of the matter is, he's seeking you. He got his flashlight out. He got his metal detector. He put on his hiking boots, man, and he stomped right down here and became a part of us and said, I'm hunting you down, boy. And he went after you with everything he had, and he backed you into a corner, and he found you. Well, I thought I was supposed to seek. Yes, in terms of, will you now respond? Now, you know the difference between seeking and or doing and responding. Doing is a focus on me. I do it. I've done it. So the seeking here is not I, me, I. Well, responding is the idea of there's something beyond me that's coming after me, that's stimulating me, and I'm responding to that. So the whole concept in the verse, seek first, is the idea of responding, because you've been found. He has come after you. And again, this is the overwhelming concept in the scriptures that we call prevenient grace. I can't talk enough about it. Prevenient grace. It's the grace that goes before. Before what? Before I ever find him. He finds me, and that's how I found him. See, I didn't love him, he loved me, so now I love him. And love was a response to him. Come on, you understand this. Tomorrow night after the service, I'll go home. I'll walk through the door. My wife will be there. She'll grab me around the neck and give me a great big kiss. I'll turn to my friend who will be standing there and I'll say, wow, did you see me kiss my wife? I'm powerful. They don't call me Manley for nothing. I'm powerful. Knocked her socks off, man. Whew. No, I won't say that. Why? Because I didn't kiss my wife. What do you mean you didn't kiss your wife? I was standing right there watching you. Your lips were all over her face. Your arms were wrapped all around you. You were kissing your wife. No, I'm telling you, I wasn't kissing my wife. Well, what on earth was going on? She was kissing me. Well, what were you doing? Responding. Whoa. Now, again, somebody's standing there looking at us. They can't tell whether I'm kissing her or she's kissing me. But I know and she knows. See, you come down to church, you see this phenomenal Christian, man. He's into the Bible. He's testifying. He's raising his hands while he's singing. He just seems to be into Jesus with everything he's got. And you look at him and say, whoa, how do you do that? And he'll look you right in the eye and say, what? I'm not doing anything. I'm responding. I'm just responding. See, folks, this takes the sweat out of Christianity because Christianity is not a doing thing. Christianity is a responding thing. And if you come to me and say, well, what do you want me to do? I'll turn to you and say, I don't want you to do anything. Now, we're not talking about inactivity. We're not talking about being lazy. We're not talking about, well, I'll just sit back and let God do it all. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about laziness or inactivity. We're talking about an intimate response with the power and life of God that is literally merged with you, and you're living in this response mode all the time. And do you realize what that changes in your life? That is so radical. That absolutely turns everything upside down because now I don't have to produce anything. I don't have to bring anything into existence. Woo! I don't have to line the altars. I don't have to preach good sermons. All I have to do is respond to him. And in the response of him, in his life, in mine. And we've used the illustration. I don't know if we told this Sunday morning or not, but we used the illustration of the glove. It's lifeless. It's limp. It's dirty. It's cheap. Throw it away. Buy a new one. Nothing. It just lays there. But then the hand comes and whoo. How strong is the glove? As strong as the hand. What does the glove do? Everything the hand does. And yet it doesn't do anything. It isn't inactive, it's moving and active and moving and functioning, and yet it doesn't do anything. The one function of the glove is, hang on, boy, hang on. That's this. See, would you just respond? Well, Manley, I feel like I'm failing in my spiritual life. There can only be one reason you're failing. You're not responding. What would happen from this point on if you would never say no? If you'd always be on the edge of your seat? If you'd always, okay, I'm in. Speak to me. Okay, God, whatever you want. What would happen if there was never any resistance in you, but always an openness to Him? Not to preachers, not to our yelling and screaming at you, not to what we say, but to what He says down deep in the inner mystical secret place, the hidden. What would happen if you were invaded by Him and He literally began to move in your life and you just hung on like a glove to the hand? You just were constantly responding and yielding and giving yourself. See, the seeking here is different. Because this is not, I'll go out and find it. This is, whoa, He found me. I'm in. The writer of Hebrews, you know what he calls this? The same thing, the same idea. He calls it rest. Whew, do you know, he says in chapter 4, there is a rest for the people of God. Woo-hoo! Oh, I get to take a nap. Kick off my shoes. Wow. No, he's not talking about that. Not talking about a nap. Well, what's he talking about? He defines it for us. He tells us what he means by it. How does he define it? He defines it as God rested. Whoa, yeah. He goes back to creation. God created for 6 days. Okay. Yeah, 5 days. He got up in the morning, said, let there be. There was. On the 6th day, He came off His throne. He didn't get up and let there be and was. He got off His throne and He got down and dirty. And He formed you out of the dust of the ground. You got your fingerprints on you. You got His fingerprints on you. And then He gave you your first kiss and breathed into you the breath of life. And when He got done with all that, He said, you know what I'm doing tomorrow? I'm resting. What are you resting from? Work? Well, it's hard to call getting up in the morning. Let there be. That's enough for today. It's hard to call that work. What's He resting from? Creating. You know what He's inviting me into? Manley, would you quit creating? What are you talking about, preacher? Oh, come on. I'm always creating. I got a problem, I got to create a solution. I got bills to pay, I got to create finances. I got to preach a sermon Sunday, I got to create a sermon. I'm a fixer. See, I can't walk into the sanctuary without picking stuff off the floor. I got to fix this place. See, I'm a fixer. I'm the guy that comes into the room and adjusts the pictures on the wall. I look at you and I got to fix you. I spent years trying to fix my wife. How'd you get along? Let's not talk about it. See, I'm always creating. I'm worn out with creating. Because I got to create happiness, I got to create peace, I got to have this, I got to have that. Oh, I need this, I need that, I need strength, I need power. Is there a pill? I'm always creating. He says, would you just quit creating and respond? Would you enter into an intimate relationship with me? Would you let me literally invade your nature? Would you literally let me, who I am? Because, come on, if you're helpless, how can you create anyhow? Do you realize the struggle of a helpless person trying to... Come on, no wonder we're worn out. So what would happen if I would embrace my helplessness and say, okay, I'll respond, I'm in. Yes. He would invade me. He would merge with me. He and I, this new creature, this kingdom person would literally, wow. He calls that seeking. Hebrews calls it rest. Well, Manley, if I would do that, what would it look like? Jesus. Because you know that's how he lived. Jesus, who is God, gave up every advantage he had as God and became a man and had no advantage over you. He had no resource available to him that you don't have available to you. He didn't do what he did because he was God, although he is God. But he did what he did because he was a man filled with God. And as we said Sunday, all 4 gospel accounts give the baptism of Jesus when he was filled with the Spirit. And miracles and ministry and all this stuff began to spill out, even down to the cross and the resurrection. All came out of this indwelling of the Spirit, this merger thing, this, Amen, Father. Jesus lived that. Let me read to you what he said. Words of Jesus. Most assuredly I say to you, he said to his disciples, the Son can do nothing of himself, but what he sees the Father do. For whatever the Father does, the Son does in like manner. How did Jesus live? In response to the Father. And whatever the Father wants to do, I'm in. Wherever the Father's going, I'm going. And he lived in constant response, and his whole life, if you admire his life, don't you understand? It was the life of constant response to the intimacy and oneness with the Father. Philip came to him and said, well, just show us the Father and we'll be happy. Jesus said, oh, come on. Do you not believe that I'm in the Father and the Father's in me? The words I speak to you, come on, I don't speak on my own authority, but the Father who dwells in me, he does the works. Look at all the miracles Jesus did. He didn't do them. Well, he was there. I know. He spoke the words. I know. It was his hand that touched. I get it. He did the preaching. Okay. But there was something going on in the more. So don't tell me you don't understand what this is or what it would look like, because it looks exactly like Jesus. Because that's the way he lived. And he turned to his disciples in this Sermon on the Mount and said, guys, this is where we're going. This is where I'm going to take you. Up to this time, all you've known is the Old Testament. Get it done. Get your flashlight. Search it out. Act right. Do the right thing. Slap your hand. Take a cold shower. Get your life under control. What's wrong with you? Come to Sunday school on time. Good night. See, that's all you've ever known. But I'm taking you to a whole new level, man. A new level where the intimacy of God is with your life. We're in the more category, the category of the mystical, hidden, in the secret. You can't measure it. You can't weigh it out. It's life. It's the soul. It's the spirit, whatever you want to call it. It's that mystical area of your life. I want to invade you at the heart of your being. And I want to so fill you and so integrate myself into you that you and I become a new creature and we act in tandem. And you just hang on, boy. Hang on. I'll take you through. Hang on. I'll get her done. Hang on. And just respond. Just respond. Just respond. Whew. I got to have this. I got to have this. Jesus. Whew. I'm tired of creating. Problems just keep coming. It's overwhelming. Now I've got a war in Israel on my hands and a war in Ukraine and I'm not going to fix all this. Lord, the church isn't what it ought to be. How am I going to fix the thing? I got people in my life, they don't do what they ought to do. How am I going to get them? I got kids that aren't what I want them to. Well, how am I going to straighten them out? Jesus, the truth of the matter is I can't even straighten myself out, let alone them. Would you just take this truth, God, and would you just put it in a ball bat and just sock me upside the head with it? Would you just put this in a ball bat and just beat the living daylights out of me with it? Could you get through to me that you have hunted me down, you have sought me out, not so I could do great preaching for you, not so I could pull off great things for you, not so I could perform for you, not so I could impress you with my great talent and display. You came after me because you wanted to merge with me, and in the intimacy of your presence, I could just hang on. Heads are bowed. Don't go too big with this. But tonight, just while we're bowed, I want you to think about something. Would you just pick out one thing in your life? It's bigger than you are. You probably didn't even cause it. Maybe a relational thing with your family, or maybe down at your job, or you don't know what you're going to do. You got to do something, but you don't know what you're going to do. You can't figure it out. And you got your flashlight out, and you got your metal detector, and you're searching for an answer. And you talk to this one and counsel that one, and how can I? And you're just wondering. You just stay up at night worrying about how you're going to. Would you respond tonight? Just in that one thing. Would you just kneel? And maybe you can't kneel at an altar, sit in the front seat. But would you just respond? Would you just, okay, Jesus, I'm in. Okay, God, here I am. Would you just embrace your helplessness? Would you just get off your pride? Quit your trying to fix and create and get, would you just, okay. And would you let him invade that area of your life? And would you just turn him loose and just respond? Wouldn't that be okay? Would a person need to be embarrassed to do that? Just respond. Well, preacher, do I have to? No, you don't. You don't have to, man. You don't have to. You can go on wearing yourself out, working yourself into a heart attack. You can go on in the depression and anxiety attacks and all upset. And Jesus, I want to respond tonight. Without hesitation, I want to respond. I got stuff going on, God, that's so big, so out of my, I'm way and out of my league. I'm in over my head. Life is bigger than, whoa. I don't have a clue. And you have hunted me down. You have searched me out. And you're calling me to seek by responding. I'm doing it tonight, Lord. accept my response, will you, Jesus? You want to join me in responding to him?